Okay, let's get started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Happy Houseplants webinar. I'm Lorraine Garcia, Communications Specialist here at Coachella Valley Water District. This webinar is being recorded and everyone is in listening mode, but if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Q&A panel at the bottom of your screen, and we will answer your questions after the presentation. Let's get started and learn about our speaker. Suzanne Burchards worked in a houseplant nursery while obtaining her degree in ornamental horticulture. To speed her recognition and knowledge of plants, she joined many garden clubs and plant societies, took tours, and bought any plant she hadn't seen before. She entered the county fair with the plants she had been learning about and won enough prize money to buy her business licenses. Thus, the plant peddler business started, providing care, sales, leasing, and short-term plants and pots. She also completed the UCCE Master Gardener in Riverside County program in 2018. Please welcome Suzanne.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, how many of you have killed a house plant out there? Or maybe two? Put your hands up. I've got both hands. I don't have enough hands. So we've all done it. Oops, I gotta press this to make it go some. All right. My screen isn't moving. Technical help. All right.
There we go.
Here's the Master Gardener program, and it's a wonderful thing if you want to learn a lot about gardening inside, out, fertilizers, soil, fruits, nuts, etc. 50 hours of instruction. It's information that promotes environmentally responsible and sustainable horticultural practices. We're trying to eliminate these pesticides and things that kill us, and we have ideas. And the instruction is from certified instructors and specialists. I'd highly recommend it. All right, well, how do plants provide a healthier environment or atmosphere? Well, for one thing, plants are essential for life. In the process of photosynthesis, leaf cells take in carbon dioxide, and with the air and water taken in by the roots, they combine with sunlight, hitting the green in chlorophyll in leaves, and they synthesize carbohydrates, which produces energy for the plant. It's their plant food. And the byproduct is oxygen. So that's why we're worried about so many rainforests being slashed down and no longer, we need more oxygen than carbon dioxide. Just one comment. This is a model home that's 2 stories. If you took away that tall palm, it would be a very dull corner. I think they do soften. Over here, my wooden blinds are closed. I don't look at my garden, but I can look at plants when they're not there. Just a couple of thoughts. The key to houseplants is light. Without light, without that photosynthetic process, your plant will eventually run out of energy and can't grow. So you have to ascertain what direction your windows are, and then study up on what plant might like low, medium, or high light. The temperature varies from 5 to 10 degrees between day and night. And I think most people do turn their thermostats down in the evening. And if a plant, you shouldn't have a plant that likes to be warm, have it up against a cold window, but you could move it to a warmer room or something like that. The other thing is the light classification: high, medium, and low. High light is your best light, that's south, and east and west is about 60% of that. And low light is your north window, and that's your very low light. And these plants, if you put the plant in those situations, they will not only maintain themselves, but they will grow. And I know some of you will say, well, I like this better than this one that wants high light. I'm going to get it anyway. That's okay. I do it all the time. I have one 5 feet by 10-inch window beside my front door, and a kitchen window that faces south, but it's 8 feet away before I can put anything to grow. It's a working area. So my plants all rotate, eventually ending up in that when the light that gets east morning light through that little 8-inch area, or the south, well, actually the south isn't involved unless I open my front door. So how do we select a healthy plant? We talked about, we wanted the green chlorophyll in leaves. That's the plant is nice and green. It means it's photosynthesizing well. And from looking at these plants, they are have lots of foliage. They both have flowers. So it has enough strength and energy to not only produce a nice symmetrical flower leaves, but it has flowers as well. That's a good clue. Good green color. It's not leaning. It has good anchorage. That means it has good roots. It should look turgid, pumped up, you know, like a fullback, ready to pop into action. And one of the most important things is to, well, you probably can't see this, but you just kind of squeeze the pot at the nursery when you're looking at it. And then you finger your fingers through the foliage and lift the plant out, and you can look at the root ball. This probably needs a bigger pot, but I do see roots that are going straight down. They're larger, and there's lots of little feeder roots there. We'll just slip it back in subtly. If the root ball falls apart when you pick it up, that's a clue. It was probably a small plant put in a large pot, and the roots are not established. That would not last long. So look at your roots, and if there's any molds or anything on them, go on to another plant. So this is our first light location, the lowest. This is a Chinese evergreen. They're what we call a true foliage plant. You only want the foliage. It does get a flower about an inch tall. If it's grown for its foliage, it only needs leaves, no seed flowers, which are into seed pods. It takes a lot of energy, so cut those off, you'll get more leaves. Our first plant is a dwarf palm. It's very small. It will be a long time on your coffee table before it has to move to a bigger surface. You're looking down on the top of the plant because I want to show you how those leaflets finger out, collecting a lot of dust. So you can use a feather duster on that, but you can also, when you water your plant, and we will talk about that as we go along. But you can bag your plant and then make it taut and turn it on its side. Have a little bowl of tepid water, maybe a drop of Dawn liquid, or maybe some Castile soap, and just suds through it. Just, you know, like clean this plant up, just like you do your hair, and that will clean the pores out. The pores can't have dust. The stomata, that's the pores on the leaf. If they have dust, they can't bring in air, so there can't be exchange of gases. There can't be growth. No photosynthesis without functioning pores. This plant has a little seed pod. Cut this one off too. This is another Chinese evergreen showing some of the great color variations and bright colors they have now. And if you thought of watering this plant, I'll put the spout down in the center of that plant. It would be flowing everywhere off the tops of those leaves. So you have to have something that you look at the volume of the pot and think, well, how much water will I need? You have to be able to hold your pitcher in one hand if you're going to do this, because you're going to use your other palm and wrists to lift those leaves. You've set your water out the night before to disperse any chemicals. It's tepid. Just go around slowly all the way around. You can walk around it however you do it. So, and then if the plant's small enough, you can lift it out of the pot, or this one with two hands, and see where that wet look is and where it's dry. It may have just run down on the side, but you'll be able to look at it and say, well, this needs more water. So you go around again, and until you have watered the entire root ball. And the next important thing is drainage. You now you've seen it's all dark brown instead of beige. You put it on your drain board. You should put a knife down, scissors, something just to provide an elevation so there's not a vacuum formed between the pot and the counter surface, which will be like a vacuum, and you lift it up, it just flows out, and then you make a mess on the floor and you hate your first house plant. So avoid that so we can keep you focused on the joy of house plants. Here's some more Chinese evergreen colorations. You notice the back of the leaf is a different color or a paler color. Infinite number of colors, splotches, undersides, and top surface colors. Our first flowing plant is on my left. It's a very thin leaf plant in the shape of a heart leaf philodendron. It's a much thinner leaf than some of the other plants you see that have a heart-shaped leaf. It also has this lighter stem, stringy looking thing coming out. That leaf that is a little bit to the right, I would go in where it has two little stems coming out to the side, cut above that. That would be taking off the terminal growth or apical growth, because when you take that off, that signals the plant, we don't have to follow the rule, feed the tip end growth first. We can now branch out. So your plant will get wider. This tends to have these very stringy looking things, spaces between the leaves. So you stop that by cutting the back a little to make them fill in. Also, since the plant likes to be dry as well as warm, you water it a little less. You may get some dry soil particles on top before the rest is wet. On a 6-inch plant, you put your finger down about 1 inch, and if it's wet, you wait to water it. If it's dry, you go ahead and water. But on this one, if it's dried out, the soil on top might dry, so you lose that the collection of water to expand the soil. So the potting soil will shrink. You'll find, well, this plant is sinking. Well, when that happens, you put your fingers through the top of the foliage, flip it upside down, lift the pot off, have a little soil nearby, and put about a ½ inch of soil in, replace your plant, fill in along the side, tap it in with your fingers, and then have some, the roots have something to grow into. For years, I can tell you this soil shrinks in this plant. Or maybe that's the best reason I can explain. I forgot to tell you, when you're buying your plants, you should also buy a saucer, at least 1 inch high and 1 inch wider than the pot, the growing pot your plant is in, so you can water it and not ruin any surface. You should also buy a water meter, because not all plants are in a soilless media. Some are from, especially those plants like the one on the right, come from Hawaii, and they have a lot of volcanic like crushed rock in their cinders, as well as the potting mix, because these plants are so heavy, they need a heavy soil to hold the plant upright so it doesn't tip. And I'm talking about the corn plant on my right. Under the first head of the top, you can see kind of a tan area. That's a very woody structure, about 1.5 inches across a diameter. And if I knocked on it, it would be like someone was knocking on the door. They're woody, very heavy. Then you have this volcanic rock along with the mix, very heavy plant. If you find you want a Dracaena, you take some styrofoam, you lodge it between the inner wall of the pot and the cane, and between the canes, so that entire soil surface is covered, locking in that plant. So when you back up from your car to put it in, if you just picked it up on the bottom, the weight of that plant, the biggest cane, would probably snap off. It's not a problem for corn plants. They're very tough. You would just pick up all the soil, throw it in your car, and put the cane in separate and deal with it at home. And you dig out as much as the root ball is, if it's 2 or 4 inches, and then a little wet area above. Dig that hole, put the plant in straight, throw that soil in. If you have a broom handle or a hammer, just tap it in around real tight, and it probably won't miss a lick. This is a wonderful house plant, but you have to clean it. The best way to clean that is to cut this toe out of a sock, then cut it in half so you have little mittens, and then you can go from the top and the bottom of the leaf and clean it. That's the best way. This plant also has a flower which kind of stays down in those vase-like structures of the leaf pattern. So you don't usually smell it before you see it. Just cut it off. It's nauseatingly sweet and might affect someone who doesn't breathe easily. On my left is a first of our snake plants. We're going to look at a nice vertical line to soften reflect in a mirror or something. These plants, you may say, I grow those outside. Yes, they do grow outside. They turn white in the sun on a stucco wall, but they're growing right, something like a potato, a rhizome, putting and waiting for that shady temperature, that season to come to pop up. They are growing underneath, they're turning white on top, but they are still thriving. So if you try to get this plant out of that pot that's tapering in, you'd have to take a knife and slice down this way to make small enough pieces to pull out. You can't turn it upside down. It just, those rhizomes are lodged up against the bottom of the pot. This plant has a little small stem with a very pale yellow flower, sweetly fragrant. You can leave that one on. Bamboo palm is just a larger version of the dwarf palm we first saw. That does have a kind of a husk that looks like bamboo that wraps the canes. So it's called bamboo palm. If this was mine in my home, I'd probably tarp it to spray the water bottle and let it drip till it dried. That's the way you can deal with a tall plant in the house. More snake plants, shapes, that cylinder, the white one's ghost, and then the smaller one is a variety of hana of some sort. This is an arrowhead, well named commonly, easier than the syngonium name. And this plant, if you put it in a location where it had light from 2 directions or 3 directions, you would have stems going out 12, 14 inches in all those directions. It seeks the light. So if you like this nice tight fullback look, you'll want to go back under the leaf, cut just above the leaf, and you'll find that you have a stem, then you have a little nodule, which is an aerial root. It's just a little nub. You can cut off some of that stem that's not necessary, put it in water and root it and share it and keep this nice tidy look. Otherwise, you're going to be slapped in the face or they'll be tangling in whatever it's draping on. Lots of blends of colors in this are new this year for this plant too. Back to shopping. I got ahead of myself. When you bought the saucer, you bought your plant, you buy the water meter, which has a metal probe, which reads the electrodes, which tells you whether it's dry, medium, or wet. That's very good for these plants that have the volcanic rock in them. These plants, you may have heard them called devil's ivy. Anyway, it's an easy plant. It's been around for years. I like this nice tight look. If we look at the plant, the golden green one on my right, if you go under that leaf where that stem is showing, you could cut just above that leaf, have that stem, and you could take off the leaf which is closest to that little nub, which is a root, and you can put the rest of it in water, it would root. These are so tough, they will stretch out 8 feet. In the 60s, we had them in San Francisco where we pinned them to the wall. We hung our light clothing on it, but now I have a dryer, so I don't have to do that, but they would get that long and obnoxious. Keep your plant in proportion to where it is going to be located. And now we're into medium light. And then back to my start, I got ahead of myself again. When you put your plant in your car, have something to cover it with. If it's a sheet in this hot heat, a blanket in the winter, but you should also take it home. And it's been growing in a greenhouse, light above, around every way. coming down on it. And the grower has been feeding it with every time he waters. It has so much fertilizer because he wants to get that plant to the size he can sell it, put a new one in. It doesn't need all that fertilizer in your home. You'll have to look at the volume of the pot and figure that much water, pour it through, and about 20% more, leach out those fertilizers. Because the plant will also acclimate and will drop a few leaves. They'll be thick when you first get it. Those that come on new will be softer, and the photosynthetic cells will be closer to the edge and be more photosynthetically efficient. But it's not something to worry about. And some of them don't do anything. We had problems we used Ficus Benjamina, which you use as a hedge here, or a gigantic tree. But it was a hot item for us. These are just more Dracaena, that corn plant family, different shapes and sizes. I hope I have time to show you a thin-leafed one that has a much smaller cane. It's not woody at all. A couple of palms here. The one on my left is the creme de creme of palms. It's probably in your bank or where you gamble. They are usually in big pots, and that lower leaf would be cut off because they want to expose this beautiful trunk of tan colored fiber that overlaps itself, weaves itself up, and it's several layers thick. You don't want to water that because that would be a source to collect the water and rot your trunk, your crown of your plant. So keep the water off any fiber, water your soil surface. These like to be pot bound, and they're very commanding, take a lot of room. Probably the leaf segment, frond is probably 4 feet long, 3 feet, 2 feet, we take them home to start and they expand. The lady palm is well called. It's the shape of your hand, a palmate leaf, but she's a lady, you can tell because she has, it looks like fingernails at the ends of her leaves. It looks like a pinkish sheer, pinked off the end. And if you were making the water get off, if you'd wash this with a hose or something, and you put your hand in there to shake off the water, it would sound like the plant was dead, but it's very much alive. It also has that fiber. Do not water the fiber, water just the soil. And they keep on getting suckers at the bottom, get thick. A lovely plant. Dumb cane, that gives you a clue. If you were to find a yellow leaf and cut it off and crumple it in your hand, then wipe your mouth, your lips would probably be numb. You swallowed it, you probably couldn't talk. You become dumb, you won't be able to speak. In your eyes, it has alkaloids that will burn and will be flushed out at an emergency for indefinite time. If you have that room where the child won't get it or the cat won't eat it, get a dumb cane, but I never lease them unless someone asked for it. On my right is this philodendron, the same as the marble queen and the golden pothos, same family. And you notice on the bottom, those leaves aren't split. Well, those are the young leaves. And this is an understory plant in the rainforest. So it thinks, it's so dark down here, we'd love some light to grow. And so they form long aerial roots. I've had them up to 5 feet long, as thick as my little finger. And they wrap around trees. And when they do that, then they realize they're getting towards the light and wind, and that nature has this mechanism which splits the leaf so the wind blows through. It does not rip the leaf. The leaf you're seeing that's torn there by the F on leaf, that's dog damage from my dog's tail. But we have to have everyone live in the same house. Anyway, ivy. This is the Aurelia family, and it is an attractant for a pest called mite, spider mite. And if you look at the plant when you're shopping, you should look for little white spots on the top of the leaves. And if you see those, that's an indication that the mite has sucked the green out of the palisade of the leaf. If you lift it up, you might find with a glass, magnifying glass, you might see a little spider mite. And if it's serious, you'll see webs. Cut the whole leaf off, get that soap out in your sink and wash this plant again really thoroughly, and you can dry it just like you do. They're very tough, these plants. This plant usually grows very flat. It's like the Hartley philodendron. You can put it in a shelf, bookshelf, and it won't be looking crowded. If you see these leaves that are sticking up, just go down and cut them off down in the base of that plant, and the laterals will come out. I brought the lipstick plant only because I thought I could show one that's been in bloom for a month, but now it's out of bloom. But this one blooms a red bloom that looks like you're unrolling a tube of lipstick. It's a hot red. It's very attractive, and they grow even in stronger light than medium if they're back from the window source. More dracaenas. These are not as woody. My favorite one is the Janet Craig, and we use the stalks to clean it. This will often get one stalk. They'll say, I want to be taller. I want more light. It'll shoot up. And what happened to my symmetry? We'll just go down and follow that cane down to where a couple leaves spread out, cut that, take a leaf that's hanging around close by and put it over the top of that so no one sees the cut. And you can take them from the bottom of your plant you've cut off, strip the leaves off, go from the bottom up. Otherwise, that wrapping sheath hangs on, and sometimes you snap the plant in half. So start from the bottom, and it will come off much easier. Then you take your broom or your hammer again, stick it in the pot of soil, make the hole, put the plant, and smack it up together, and they just grow without missing a lick. I think it's really wonderful. Warnicki, you don't use, this is silver tones or white and greens. You don't use the socks on those. Their leaf sheath does not hang on tight. And if you use something beyond a feather duster, sometimes you knock the leaves off, which is all right because it exposes this gorgeous mottled trunk that's green overlapped with white. Very attractive. You have more to look at, more to enjoy, more to blab about. You know what the conversation is at my home anyway. These are rubber plants, another big family in house plants. Ficus is the same as the fig we eat. These have a little fig, but it's like that Washington palm that has a seed that has a little bit of taste and mostly seed. We don't want to eat these anyway, but they all have a latex sap. In fact, the rubber plants, Elastica created the first tires, then they found one in a closer cousin that does better. Now we have synthetic tires, but it's very sticky. And if you prune a ficus hedge outside and you go to have a break and pick up your glass, rest your arm, you're going to pick up your napkin or the tablecloth because it's just like a glue, and it does itch. And even washing is hard anyway. There is a sap. I just go with the rule that any plant could be poisonous. We never know how someone's system will affect it. But if you put this in your mouth, you probably have stuck together. You'd be getting out of your mouth really fast. But all these plants, they have a woody cane and they have heavy leaves. You will need to buy a ceramic or something substantial to hold it, because if you let the one on your right, if it's in medium light, it will grow to the ceiling and then bend. It might be so tropical and so paradisical to have it cascading over your bed, but when it falls on you, it's not fun in the middle of the night. So you want to select maybe 18 inches from your ceiling, and you have to make a choice of where to cut. Looking at the fiddle leaf fig, if you look at the leaf that looks like a tongue coming at me, if you cut that in a downward slant towards me, that new branch, a new bud would come out and form a stem and then leaves, and it would come out at you. That's fine if you have it in the middle of an atrium and that's all you're going to have. And then the upper ones you cut and they would go up and on the diagonal. So you have to look at the angle of how the leaf is coming out. You'll know which direction the next leaf will come out. The red you see on the rubber plant with the little spires there, that's actually almost like tissue paper, a little sheath of plant material that wraps when that starts to loosen up. the plant, an oval leaf unfurls from that. It's like pulling out contact paper when it's coming out in the shape of a oval leaf. I wish I could have a time release camera capturing that, because sometimes I think, oh, the sheath is loose. I can, maybe tomorrow I'll hang out and drink coffee all day and watch it. I've wasted a lot of time, never seen it happen, but it's amazing. And just leave that on there. It's protecting the leaf surface so it isn't damaged. If you want a wonderful house plant that with flowers, I would recommend a peace lily. And they have these beautiful, pristine white flowers, and they bloom regularly, and they're very good. If you go away for 10 days and come back and the plant is laying down or wilting severely, take heart, put it in water, and let it absorb water for about 30 minutes. And then after a couple hours, you'll feel very empowered because the plant will be resurrecting itself. And you'll feel good about yourself again. If the leaf, I'll show you a leaf later on that is, the stem comes out and the stem is bent and the wide part of the leaf is just hanging on the side of the pot. That's beyond coming back. But those that are upright, sometimes I would take a stick, a cane, a thin cane, put it in there, take a piece of plant tape and tie it up so all the leaves were up, so it wouldn't have an extra bend to try to send water to, just to get a little help. On the right is a prayer plant, the red one. You can see the red undersurface on the bottom right-hand corner of the leaf. It has a little lilac flower with a husk. It's about a fourth of an inch long. Then it has a husk wrapping it. So it looks really trashy. I just cut them off. This one is a herringbone pattern. And if you know, let's see, at the bottom right-hand corner, you see a single leaf with a little stem there. If you went under that leaf there, if you felt all the way back, you'd find a little knob like a knee. These have great reflexology. They bend. And this one, the green one, actually genuflects up into total prayer position, and you see only a very pale backside of the leaf. When the evening gets cool and it gets dark, that's when that happens. So it might be a good time to have a thought for those things going on in the world. When your plant is genuflecting, you can do a little too, maybe. And they're both in this family of Calathea. And peacock plant, they're more exotic flowers. I mean, look at that. Leaves. The foliage underside is purple. The top has a beautiful pattern. And I want to show off this. This is the kind of root ball you're looking for. So the roots going down, little ones going off to the side. No one, if they go all the way around, never get that plant. And this is a very tan looking soil ball. If you pick this plant up, it would be very light. So that would, you would say, oh, and you put your finger in, it'd be very dry all the way down. You would water it. So you can use all your senses to figure out watering, the weight. You pick out your dry plant, and that's really light. You pick out one that's sloshing or smelling. You've got a clue it's sitting in water. And visually, if you see slime molds in the soil, you have a problem. I should have called this by its common name vase plant on this text. This rosette of leaves is vase shaped. You may get one someone may give you a plant without any of these beautiful flowers. And but you look in there after a while and you think, there seems to be a little dome coming up in the center and it has bumps all over it. And each one of those little bumps comes out as this little triangular looking bract. And the flower is actually in the very center of that red one. You can see one starting. It's like the poinsettia, the flowers. You think the flowers, the red thing. No, it's that little yellow flower. So it's anyway, a wonderful plant. When it blooms about a month, then you can cut it off. You put a silk flower in. Save the plant, because just like the agave, you may know of the desert, that when you see the bloom, that's the beginning of its death, but it's going to put out first flowers. They form into plantlets, which fall hard enough that because they sometimes are 16 feet up, they root. They also put out underground runners. This one puts out a short runner. We only have a 6-inch pot. You get a tiny little miniature of the vase, and it takes a while to elongate the stem and then develop a plant. The mother will never bloom again, but your pups will. You can share those. Lots of colors, a gray one with a pink flower, which is for your delicate friend that, with peaches and cream skin, it would be perfect for them. Anthurium, we always, the humidity, the Calathea, I don't know if I mentioned how to create humidity. You have a saucer and you pour it, put rocks in, but not to the top of the saucer. And you pour water in about halfway up the rocks. That water evaporates around it. That helps. If you have teenagers that take those 1-hour showers, or you do it, hot steamy showers, put it in the back of that walk-in shower or in the bathroom. It's going to love that steam. I have a friend that says, I have a wonderful Calathea collection. It's all in the back. It's the best thing about my bathroom, she said. So that helps a lot. You go away, you can buy, pick up your clothes in the cleaner, straighten out that wire coat hanger and make it an arch, put it in the pot on each side, do another one, go on the other way, take the cleaner bag, put it over there, get a little mini greenhouse, don't put it by a window, and that will sweat and don't let it touch the leaves either. Anyway, when I did that, when I was doing some growing of things that needed humidity, my thing read 3 to 5% more for humidity. So it helped you do what you can. On my right is a very, if you have an oriental theme in your home, this is a wonderful plant. If you clean that up, it would be, it's like so curly. It's like Viennese filigree jewelry. It's so gorgeous. And if it's in a warm room and it's dry and you see a yellow leaf down, think, I wonder if that needs water. You get closer, you smell maple syrup, you know it's time to water. And it's a wonderful plant, tan trunk. Chapeleras, this is an umbrella. The one, you can see the one leaf, how it looks like an umbrella. Then this is a plant that is, I took a picture of in a greenhouse or maybe box store. On the other side is my plant at home with a collection of bloomy, but it's not flowers, it's dust and pollutant air particles. I live in a valley that has hundreds of thousands of almond or almond trees, and there's lots of dust always. And so it will take a lot of time, but I can make this one be the same color as the other. And that I need to, because it needs to breathe. Another Chapelera, this is the Hawaiian one, comes in white and green too, very flexible. You could strip off the bottom leaves. There's 5 or 6 plants and do French braid. You can see the tall one coming up there. You can go down in there and cut it off low and start it in water, or you can take a piece of copper wire, twist it around it, bend it down, and you have a little water source in your atrium in your house. You can plant it near there, and that if you lay it over the water, beautiful creamy roots will form, gorgeous. This is one of the heaviest and biggest, this is Rancho Mirage's plant in the library, and it's twice as big as this now. It's a very heavy leaf plant, and it's probably 8 inches long, 8 inches wide. The stem will turn you purple. So keep these, it would also shine up burgundy if you wash those leaves off with your socks. Highlight, that's a type of Aurelia, but it's not, it's only in the family. Spider plant. Okay, that's a fun plant for kids. You see the appendages coming up there and looks like a mini plant up there. You could swing that around, peg it and have your child peg it into a little soil, pot of soil, and just kind of tuck it in. And you say, now we're going to let this mama nurture this baby till it can be on its own. First, it's a little wimpy, and then suddenly it's looking very turgid. And you say, call the kids and come on, we're going to have a little obstetrical experience here. And they'll get the scissors and they'll cut that cord, because they're a sure thing to start. Even these faint ones that are as well as developed as this big one, they already have little nubs for roots. So it's a sure thing and fun to get kids interested in plants. Crotons in the Aurelia family, they do have multicolored seed pods, cut them off. We want this beautiful foliage, wash it, Aurelia. Just a couple more highlight plants. The one on the right, it's out of focus. I do better with roots than cameras, but it has a very V-shaped. This one over here is a friend of mine's, and it was good because see the babies coming out from the side. You could get 2 more plants out of that. It would be about 3 feet tall, but you have to go in there with a knife, a butter knife and fork, and scrape through there to separate the baby's roots from the mama's roots. You have 2 extra plants, but it'd be tedious, but worth it. I would cut off this branches laying low, then you'd get that nice V shape which wraps a corner so well. The important thing about this plant, the back of the leaf, you think, oh my gosh, I have some bug. It's just suede colored back here. One lady said, I spent an hour cleaning those off. I said, that will be futile. They'll be back. That's the spore. It suffers to make more plants. It also has spores which drop, and in a humid condition, they will root. Watering, we're going to always have tepid water. It's out the night before. You can use distilled water or soft water, nothing with boron in it. This is the lower leaves here are the ones that are probably not going to make it. The plants that are halfway up, they might, but you've lost part of that plant. Potting soil, instead of buying 3 bags, mixing your own, buy a commercial one. They have lots of this perlite, which is provides airspace. It's very airy, expanded mica, I believe, or volcanic rock. Lots of opportunity for air as well. If you water your plant too heavy, it takes away all the pore spaces, so the air can't get in. So on the left is something new. They chop it up fine core from palm fiber, so we're using waste product, and it's now available for $1 at a dollar store. Feeding your plants, all fertilizers have 3 numbers. Sometimes it's 2 zeros and 1 solid number, but if you add that, whatever that sums up to, subtract it from 100, that's the amount of active fertilizer or plant nutrients you have available. So if you think you're getting a bargain buying the 0.55, that might be good. The middle number is for phosphorus. Always, it helps initiate blooms. So you want a high number in that. Nitrogen, green, it helps with the green and the photosynthesis and stem structure. Phosphorus, that's for flowers. Potassium often is a major factor in not only photosynthesis, but for fruit development. NPK. And read your label and never exceed it. In fact, when you start, do use half strength. Here's your mealybug. You can see the stages, the translucent, and it gets to be big and create something awful. These are all throwaway leaves. Spider mite, this is bad infestation, throw away. Scale, pale, she's the newest one laying eggs. The brown is probably on its way out, but you have to flick those off, the plant upside down. You might throw it away, or you can get some help with biological control, because we want to avoid the use of pesticides. Haven't used one for about 30 years, but there used to be something called LD on it. That's lethal dose. That's the container that your dog grabs, thinks it's fun to throw plastic in the air, he dies. So if you can get some biological control, it's helpful. Integrated pest management, there's the website, and I'll leave some of these up as we get questions. Poison control, take a picture. You can make a chart. I can list all your plants and say when you watered and when you fertilized, because our lives are so routine. I can't remember yesterday, let alone last week. References, the 3 middle ones are what I say that plants promote health. These are the bona fide documented studies they've done. And these are some Master Gardener websites. Do we have questions? Roger? Lorraine?
Thank you, Suzanne. That was a great presentation. Now, I think we have some questions in the chat, and we have Roger Tansey and Heather Viankic that's going to help us out.
Yes, Renee has a question. Do you recommend feeding your house plants? My plants leaves seem to get brown spots after giving them food.
Have you exceeded the manufacturer's rate? Try half rate. And if you used it a couple months back, it's winter, you want to use fertilizer in the active growing season. Winter is not when things happen. I did a study and tried to do cuttings. They took 4 times as long as those that I started in and active to get roots than those that I started this month. So try diluting or and flush it out, leach it out, and see if that if there's any residual that needs to leave.
Heather, do you want to go?
All right, we've got another question about the heartleaf plant from earlier in the presentation. Is that one known as the string of hearts?
No, string of hearts. Can you find one string of hearts over there? Yeah. No, string of hearts is only about as the leaf is only about as big as your thumbnail, and very succulent. It has spots and very thin strings, a thinner stem that hold the hearts. The stem is thinner than string. I don't know if Pat can find it somewhere. Oh, look underneath one of those tables in front. Okay, she's looking, but it's very tiny. Heartleaf philodendron is probably an inch and a half long and 2 inches long and 1.5 inches wide. No, very gray, tiny. All right, another question.
This is also from Renee. She wants to know, do you need to give the peace lily food to get the flower?
Anything that flowers will need fertilizer. And again, try half strength and follow the, oh, she's found it. The, oh, I have to be very still. Is that showing? Whoops. See how, can you see it? Renee, was it asked? And then, oh, this is the size of a heart leaf. Leaf. But this is in that same family and very thick. But that's the size. Yeah. Oh, okay. Were you able to see those string of hearts? Hello?
Renee? Well, I guess not.
Okay.
Would you like another question?
Yes.
Oh, I wasn't asking about the string of pearls. I was asking about the peace lilies, and that's what I was asking.
Okay. Sorry, got that wrong.
Mhm.
Yes, because it takes a little extra oomph, and food helps because it doesn't have composting going around it as it does in the rainforest.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got another question. Is watering bulbs a good idea?
Watering what?
Bulbs.
Oh, a bulb. Oh, watering bulbs?
Yes.
Oh.
BULBS.
Oh,
Bulb.
yes, you should water bulbs. Then they have to be planted at the right time to come up. Most of them have a season, but yes, you want to. Oh, and we also have, besides bulbs, caudices, swollen bases that it kind of erupt up. The black one. This one. I'll show you one. I'll try to show you. Yeah. Actually, this is a bulbous base. I don't know if you can see that, but they're about the size of a olive. Is showing. Oops, you can't see it. It's too dark. This is actually a ZZ plant. Usually it's green. This is a black one, black leafed. The new growth is green. And I wanted, you can't read this label, but it's called Raven ZZ. Gives the botanical name, and then it says PP, and it has a number. That's under plant patent. Someone saw this in the wherever, grew 1, 10, 100, 300, finally was able to sell some, or excuse me, and he found it ran true, black, waited a few years, applied for the patent. Yes, it remained stable. It is a black leaf plant. And then they finally get 25 cents a plant for 20 years. It's a long struggle. So don't be cutting this in half and sharing it. You let the founder, the person that discovered this plant for you gets 25 cents or whatever it might be. I'm from a land where we have the largest hybridizer of fruit trees in the world. and things like pluots. He has 165 crosses he's made with his paintbrush to pollinate. So give the PP, the plant patent, its due, and don't try to make cuttings from it. That's just my pitch.
Stephanie has a question. How do you prevent the tiny bugs or gnats in the soil?
That's probably a fungus gnat. And when you buy your plant, if you look at that root ball and you see something, did something flicker there, a little silvery splash? That's fungus gnat. The plant is too wet. And so you have to dry it out. Sometimes you put sand on the surface, discourages the eggs. It starts with overwatering, and they have prolific reproductive abilities. Hard to get rid of. Once in a dentist office, they had a personal plant, and I said, well, I don't take care of personal plants, but you're watering it too much. And she sprayed it with Lysol, and she claimed they went away, but I told her to take the plant away, so I never saw it. But that was just something that she said, and I thought, well, I'm glad the plant made it through the Lysol. That is not research-based, but I wondered if the plant really died being doused with Lysol. Questions?
Okay, we've got another one. This one's from Marilee. What causes the anthurium's leaves to yellow?
That if they're all yellow, it's probably overwatering. Have you looked at have you pulled the plant out and looked at the root ball? Any bad smells of rot? And it probably needs. Sometimes they pale because of not enough light. I don't know if you have it in a dark spot. Flowering plants like bright light, but not up close because they don't like the heat. But I mean, this sun direct. Are they browning off of the tip also? Your anthurium? Hello, hello.
No.
Don't see an answer to that.
Okay, well, it's probably a watering thing. If it's a dry yellow, and the leaf is not wet, it could be you haven't watered enough. You can also feel the leaves and say, oh my gosh, I crushed that yellow leaf and my hand was wet. It probably has had so much water, it had to put it somewhere. So that would be overwatered. If it's dry, you probably let it be too dry. And you can look at your root system. It should have those fibrous roots showing that when it's healthy. And if they're gone, the plant probably dried out.
What if it's speckled?
The leaf? Oh,
Yes.
that could be a virus from being too cold, or maybe cold water. And don't use ice cubes on your plants. They don't like that. Those are just, it could be a virus of some sort, which does cause spots and discolorations. Some discolorations are so pretty. New plants are developed from virus plants.
Should I give it distilled water or tap water?
Distilled water is good. It's about as pure as you can be.
Thank you.
And I think that's all of the questions.
I know anthuriums do not like any chemicals. They want to be warmer at night. And did I tell you that they grow on a little kind of a stilt? Oh, if you look at the anthurium where the stems and flowers are, both flower and leaf stems come out, it looked like they're on a little tripod. You should throw a little soil on that to cover those up, because that is an area we'll be initiating the new flower and leaf stems. So you want to have them kind of protect their new body, the new structure that's coming up. So.
That's it for the questions.
Well, of course, I always love talking plants, so thanks for being with me, folks.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you, Suzanne, for the wonderful presentation. And we have recorded this video, and we will put it on our website. It should be available tomorrow morning, and we'll post a link to it on our Facebook page. And if we can get the presentation as well, we will also include that. So thanks again, everybody, for your time.
Thanks for asking me.
Sure.
Oh, Kimberly Johnson raised a hand.
Oh, let's see. Hi, Kimberly. I unmuted you so you can ask your question.
Oh, thank you. Just want to clarify the watering bulbs. Those are the glass or plastic bulbs that go upside down and stick into the soil of the plants.
That's good. It slowly releases it. That's good. You also can buy plants now that have strings coming out. It goes into the center of the soil ball, and that you put water in the saucer, it takes it up slowly. There's self-watering pots you can buy, but the plastic bulbs are fine. Also, your gravy baster bulb is great. When you overwater that plant in a difficult situation to lift it out, you can put that gravy baster and suck out that extra water. So we'll talk more bulbs.
Thank you.
All right. If there aren't any more questions, I think we are finished.
Thank you all.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Lauren.
You're welcome.